In a world that often equates a quick and vocal response with strength and intelligence, the act of choosing silence is a profound declaration of self-control. It's the moment we resist the powerful, almost primal urge to react instantly, to fire back a sharp retort, to defend ourselves with a barrage of words, or to jump into a debate unprepared. This isn't about being passive or having nothing to say. It's about asserting dominance over our own impulses. When we are provoked, our emotions flare up and the ego demands to be heard. To override this demand and choose a moment of quiet reflection instead is to show that we are the master of our mind, not its slave. This form of self-control is a testament to our emotional maturity. It demonstrates a sophisticated understanding that not every thought needs to be voiced and not every comment deserves a response. A person who is quick to speak often does so from a place of insecurity or a desperate need to be seen and heard. They are externally driven, seeking validation from the noise they create. In contrast, the person who can remain silent is secure in their own being. They don't need to fill every void with sound because their worth isn't tied to their verbosity. This quiet confidence is far more intimidating and respectable than any loud declaration. Furthermore, the discipline of silence provides a critical pause, a buffer zone between stimulus and reaction. That is the number R. It's in this brief but invaluable space that we can transform a potential outburst into a thoughtful response. Instead of being propelled by raw emotion, we can engage our higher faculties. This momentary stillness allows us to analyze the situation, consider the long-term consequences of our words, and choose a path that aligns with our values rather than our fleeting feelings. It's the difference between lashing out and de-escalating, between creating conflict and fostering understanding. This mastery of silence also extends to our interactions with others. When we resist the urge to interrupt or dominate a conversation, we communicate respect. We signal that we value the other person's perspective and are willing to give it the space it deserves. This can disarm a tense situation and transform it into a more constructive dialogue. It shows that our presence isn't about taking up space with our own voice, but about creating an environment where all voices can be heard in due time. This subtle act of deference is, in reality, a powerful display of inner strength and humility. Ultimately, choosing silence when others expect noise is a radical act of power. It signifies that we are not easily swayed or baited. We are not a puppet to external provocations, but a deliberate agent of our own actions. This deliberate stillness can confuse and even frustrate those who thrive on conflict, as it deprives them of the fiery response they seek. In this way, silence becomes a strategic tool, a quiet force that controls the narrative and dictates the terms of engagement without uttering a single word. The choice of silence allows for deep listening, a skill that is becoming increasingly rare in our fast-paced, communication-saturated world. Most people don't listen to understand, they listen to reply. This kind of listening is merely a waiting period, a mental rehearsal for their own next statement. By consciously choosing silence, we break this pattern. We create a space not for our next argument, but for the other person's full message to land, allowing us to absorb their words, tone, and even the unsaid emotions behind their speech. This form of active listening is a profound act of empathy. It requires us to set aside our ego and preconceived notions and genuinely enter the other person's world. In our silence, we give them the room to articulate their thoughts without feeling rushed or judged. This can lead to them sharing more openly and honestly than they might otherwise, revealing layers of meaning that would have been missed in a rapid fire exchange of opinions. True understanding emerges not from the words we speak, but from the stillness in which we receive them. By being silent, we are able to process the entire message, not just the parts that trigger a reaction within us. We can observe the nuances, the hesitations, the shifts in body language, the unspoken needs. This comprehensive approach to listening enables us to move beyond the superficial topic of conversation and grasp the underlying emotions and motivations. It transforms a simple exchange into a genuine connection, building a bridge of trust and mutual respect. This deep listening is not a passive act. It requires intense focus and presence. When we silence our own internal chatter, we become fully present in the moment with the speaker. This level of attention is a powerful form of validation. It tells the other person, what you are saying matters. You matter. This can be incredibly healing and can de-escalate conflicts far more effectively than any well-reasoned argument. The simple act of being truly heard can often resolve tensions before they even escalate. Ultimately, the wisdom of silence in this context is that it serves as a tool for collecting valuable information. By deeply listening, we are gathering the data necessary to form a truly informed and compassionate response. Instead of reacting based on incomplete information or assumptions, we can respond with clarity, empathy, and a full understanding of the situation. This leads to more effective problem solving and stronger, more resilient relationships, demonstrating that the quiet act of listening is often the loudest statement of wisdom. Choosing silence is a powerful shield against regret. In a world that often rewards quick, witty comebacks, the most damaging words are often those spoken in haste, fueled by a momentary surge of anger, defensiveness, or hurt. Silence provides a critical pause, a much-needed buffer between the initial feeling and the verbal reaction. By holding back, we prevent ourselves from saying something irreversible, something that could wound a loved one, damage a professional relationship, or tarnish our own reputation. This simple act of self-restraint is a form of proactive damage control, protecting us from the very real and often long-lasting consequences of spoken words. The regret that follows a thoughtless remark can be one of the heaviest burdens we carry. We replay the conversation in our minds, wishing we could take back the sharp criticism, the personal attack, or the overblown accusation. This is where the wisdom of silence becomes most apparent. It is a decision to prioritize long-term harmony over short-term vindication. By not allowing our emotions to dictate our words, we save ourselves the pain of remorse and the laborious task of apology and repair. The silent choice is a choice for a peaceful conscience. Furthermore, silence preserves our dignity. When we react with an angry outburst or a petty insult, we often regret not just the words themselves, but the image of ourselves we have projected. An impulsive response can make us appear irrational, immature, or even cruel. However, a person who chooses silence in the face of provocation appears calm, collected, and in control. This non-reaction is a powerful statement of character. It demonstrates that we value ourselves, respect more than the fleeting satisfaction of a verbal victory. This principle extends to professional settings as well. In the workplace, a hasty email or an angry comment in a meeting can have serious consequences, from strained collaborations to derailed career paths. The ability to pause, reflect, and choose silence is a hallmark of a professional demeanor. It allows us to gather our thoughts and formulate a response that is strategic and constructive rather than emotional and destructive. It prevents the kind of misstep that can haunt us for years, proving that silence is not just a personal virtue, but a professional asset. Ultimately, the shield of silence is a testament to our foresight. It is an acknowledgement that the impact of our words far outlives the moment they are spoken. By refusing to engage in a verbal battle, we are not ceding defeat. We are choosing a higher path. We are choosing to protect not only our relationships, but also our own sense of self. It is a silent commitment to live a life with fewer regrets, where our integrity remains intact and our words, when finally spoken, are measured, meaningful, and true. Choosing silence is not a passive act of inaction, but an active path to wisdom. In our noisy world, our minds are constantly stimulated, leaving little to no room for genuine reflection. Silence provides a sanctuary from this external clamor. It is in the quiet moments that we can truly listen to our own thoughts, allowing them to form without interruption. This practice of stillness is the fertile ground where new ideas can take root, where connections between seemingly unrelated concepts can be made, and where a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world can emerge. This profound stillness enables a unique kind of processing. Instead of simply reacting to the constant flow of information, silence allows us to synthesize it. We can sort through our experiences, reflect on our mistakes, and internalize our lessons. The act of holding back a response gives our subconscious the time and space it needs to work through complex problems. This is why many of history's greatest thinkers and innovators have often sought solitude. That is the number R. They understood that wisdom doesn't reside in the cacophony of conversation, but in the quiet contemplation that precedes it. Furthermore, silence forces us to confront ourselves. When we remove the distraction of external chatter, we are left with our own inner voice, a voice we often try to drown out with noise. This confrontation can be uncomfortable, but it is essential for growth. It allows us to face our fears, acknowledge our biases, and understand our true motivations. This self-awareness is the cornerstone of true wisdom. You cannot give wise counsel to others or make wise decisions for yourself if you do not first understand the inner workings of your own mind. The practice of silence is, in essence, a form of mental decluttering. Just as we organize our physical spaces to find what we need, silence helps us organize our mental space. It allows us to shed the irrelevant information and focus on what truly matters. This clarity of thought is what separates a knowledgeable person from a wise one. A knowledgeable person can recall facts, but a wise person understands their meaning and can apply them with discernment. Silence is the tool that owns this discernment. Ultimately, the wisdom gained from silence is practical and enduring. It is not just about abstract knowledge, but about a deeper, more intuitive understanding of life. It teaches us to be more deliberate in our actions and more thoughtful in our words. By choosing to be silent, we are choosing to cultivate a mind that is calm, clear, and capable of seeing beyond the immediate surface of things. It is in this quiet state that we become a source of insight, not just a vessel for information. Choosing silence can be a powerful response in itself, often speaking volumes more than any verbal rebuttal could. When faced with an unjust accusation, a provoking insult, or a baseless argument, the impulse is to defend oneself with a flood of words. However, a deliberate, calm silence can be a more effective counter move. It refuses to validate the other person's aggression or irrationality, denying them the reaction they are likely seeking. This non-engagement disarms the aggressor and forces them to confront the emptiness of their own words. Silence, in this context, is not a sign of defeat, but a tactical withdrawal from a senseless battle, thereby winning the higher ground. This form of silent response is a demonstration of immense inner strength. It signals that you are not so easily provoked and that you refuse to be drawn into petty conflict. While others might see silence as weakness, it is, in fact, a display of profound self-possession. It tells the other person that their words do not have the power to rattle you or disrupt your inner peace. This quiet fortitude can be incredibly unsettling to those who thrive on drama and confrontation, as it starves them of the emotional fuel they need to continue their verbal assault. Moreover, silence can force the other person to reflect on their own behavior. When a sharp remark is met with a quiet stare instead of a heated reply, it can cause the speaker to question the appropriateness of their own words. The lack of a response places the burden of responsibility back on the person who initiated the conflict. It creates a vacuum that they are forced to fill, often leading them to either back down or reveal the true nature of their malice. This allows you to observe and understand their character without having to compromise your own. Furthermore, silence can be a form of eloquent protest. In situations where a verbal argument would be fruitless, remaining silent can communicate a powerful sense of disapproval or a refusal to endorse a harmful idea. It can be a way of saying, "I will not participate in this." This is a quiet rebellion that preserves one's integrity without stooping to the level of the aggressor. It demonstrates that you value your principles more than the need to have the last word. Ultimately, the power of silence lies in its ability to change the dynamic of an interaction. By choosing not to respond, you are taking control of the narrative. You are shifting the focus from a debate about words to a deeper reflection on behavior and character. This powerful non-action demonstrates a level of wisdom that understands that not every situation is worth our energy and that some battles are best won by not fighting at all. It is a quiet declaration that our peace is more valuable than any argument. Choosing silence is an act of preserving energy, a vital resource in a world that constantly demands our attention and input. We often don't realize how much mental and emotional energy is expended in the constant need to talk, to offer an opinion, or to fill every moment with noise. Engaging in endless chatter, whether it's in a conversation or on social media, drains our cognitive resources. By consciously deciding to be silent, we are putting a stop to this wasteful expenditure. We are not being lazy, we are being strategic, choosing to conserve our limited reserves for what truly matters. This preservation of energy allows us to focus on the things that are most important, instead of squandering our attention on trivial debates or idle gossip. We can redirect that energy toward more constructive pursuits. Think of it like a battery. Every time we engage in an unnecessary verbal exchange, a little bit of that energy is used up. By choosing silence, we keep the battery charged, ready to be used for deep thinking, creative problem solving, or meaningful action. This is the difference between being reactive and being proactive. One drains you, while the other empowers you. Furthermore, emotional energy is just as precious, if not more so, than mental energy. Getting caught up in arguments and emotional disputes is a fast track to burnout. The stress, anger, and frustration that come with verbal conflict are incredibly taxing on our system. A silent retreat from such situations is a form of self-care. It allows us to protect our emotional well-being from the toxic influence of others. By refusing to engage in emotional battles, we maintain our peace of mind and emotional stability, which are essential for long-term resilience. The wisdom in this energy conservation is that it leads to greater intentionality. When we aren't busy talking, we can take the time to observe and absorb. This quiet observation allows us to see patterns, understand dynamics, and make more informed decisions. Our silence becomes a tool for gathering information, not just for withholding it. We become a more thoughtful and deliberate presence, acting with purpose rather than from impulse. Our contributions, when we do choose to speak, are more impactful because they are not diluted by a constant stream of unnecessary words. Ultimately, the choice to conserve energy through silence is a powerful act of discipline. It is a recognition that our internal resources are finite and must be managed wisely. It allows us to become more discerning about where we invest our time and attention. By practicing this form of energy management, we ensure that we have the stamina and mental clarity to tackle the challenges that truly matter and to build a life of substance rather than one of noise.